this is about our fantastic Foldr product, or in fact one of the further bolt-ons. If you don't know about Foldr, get hold of those account managers, take a look, have a chat with the guys. There's a lot to learn and a lot to love. It's a British product. It was built in Bristol. It's been in development for over 10 years. They've supported over 1 million users. It's the best kept secret. It's a fantastic thing. I'm not going to read that because you can later. But today, these are the bolt-ons. Okay, so the Foldr core product that we've already talked about in one of our webinars, this enormous, powerful chunk of stuff that can allow access to any storage that you've got, use any users, any devices, kind of turns everything into a possibility with Foldr. And last time, if you didn't see that webinar, we were talking about Capture, about data extraction. If you can access all your files, it'd be really good to know what was on them, and it would be really good to be able to power workflows with specific bits of data. So the second of this series was about the Capture data extraction bolt-on. The bolt-on we're looking at today, I'm going to move my mouse pointer. I don't know whether you guys will be able to see it, but make me feel better. Okay, is we are talking about MaSH. Okay, now MaSH stands for Make Stuff Happen. It never originally started for stuff, but it does now, because the PDFs and the marketing collaterals were a little bit edgy before we made that small change. But what is MaSH? MaSH is perhaps the hardest thing to describe within the Foldr environment, because it's almost limitless in what it can do. But effectively, MaSH enables you to create automations within your Foldr environment. Now, given that Foldr can hook into any piece of storage, it can look at any type of file, and it can interact with any kind of device, that means that automation engine has to be all-encompassing. And in typical Foldr style, they've gone off and done this in a very different, very unusual way against the kind of more traditional market processes. Okay, so what is MaSH? Well, it's a script engine that can be enabled within the Foldr appliance to do almost limitless tasks. And of course, we will show you some of those in a little moment. But I did just want to dive into a little bit of why we want to do that. Okay, well, one of the big parts of MaSH right now, and I want to get this in early, Diane, because at the moment, if you do a demo about ECM and you don't use the words artificial intelligence or AI or machine learning, if you don't get those in the first 10 minutes, you're nowhere. I've learned that. All right, that's it. Whether it's important or not. The market for AI, of course, guys, we even get inquiries from customers at the moment going, what can AI do with this? And it's not a task you need AI for, but people want to know about it. So MaSH, and one of the reasons we're doing this demo again, or this webinar again, is because we're building a lot of AI features and a lot of AI interaction tools back into the MaSH engine, or into the MaSH engine. So it feels very timely. And if you take a look at that, the growth of AI data management is set to be massive. And if you want to understand this graphic even more, I'm more than happy to share the details. Give me a shout, drop us an email, get hold of an account manager. But you'll see that in the world that we're in the doc management ECM world, there's a lot of stuff around image processing, and we're going to touch on that, extracting stuff off of invoices or doing clever things with images. Very cool. But there's an even bigger one around text, around video, around speech, around all those pieces. And if you've watched the previous webinars, you'll know that Foldr is not just documents. Foldr is data, it's files, it's anything you want it to look at. And so really MaSH is made to measure for this massive boom in AI and machine learning, artificial intelligence. So Diane, we have managed to say all three of those phrases twice each in the first 5 minutes. So we're going to break the internet. That's what I'm thinking. All right. Okay. Why is this particularly important for Foldr? Why is it? Well, let's take a look at this. All right. When we actually started playing stuff, this is a fairly old document actually now, but again, links are on there if you want to know where we get it from. There's always sources for this stuff. We don't just invent it. It'd be a lot easier if we could, I've got to be honest. But when we started looking at doc management, what we realized is we spend a load of time talking about accounts payable or HR onboarding or these type of things, when actually the biggest market is file sharing, it's collaboration. That's where most IT is actually happening. So MaSH is particularly good at doing things like moving stuff and sharing stuff and creating stuff, the things that users do on a daily basis that you don't necessarily have to really understand those particular horizontal segments to drive on. Another reason to get your head back into Foldr, if you haven't seen the other webinars, go back, or better still, talk to an account manager. I think we've Said that a few times already. All right, so I've banged on about it. What is it? Now, I promise I'm not going to go through this because there's bits of script and code, and I'm not going to go through it, firstly because it'd be difficult and slightly dull, but also because I can't do it, so I'll probably break it. But the reality of it here is these are all the types of things that MaSH can do. Normally when we talk about automation engines or workflow engines or business process, they tend to be drag and drop, and I'm kind of limited to moving a file here or putting it there or perhaps putting some data somewhere. And MaSH can do an awful lot more than that. It's much, much broader. It can deal with databases. It can deal by creating CSV files. It can deal with barcodes. But MaSH is a bit different because it can create those things. It can do maths. It can do money. It can create PDFs. It can go off and create spreadsheets or Word documents. It can drive on and do just about anything you want. It can interact with SMS services and emails. It can talk about users and groups. It can share things. It's much, much broader than your usual automation engines because it's got all of the business intelligence of the Foldr appliance that it can rely on. All of the stuff we've talked about with the core product's ability to share, find, modify, and the capture product's ability to extract bits of information and reshape it. So much, much broader. So MaSH, you just change the license key in your Foldr appliance and MaSH is suddenly an option that's available. All of the libraries are included. You can run as many MaSHs as you like, or MaSHlets as we refer to them, within an appliance. You don't need to install anything else. It's the third and perhaps biggest bolt-on of Foldr. So that's what it is. Make stuff happen in Foldr. There we go. I think I've labored the point there, so let's kind of move on. Should we take a look at it? Let's take a look. Let's see kind of where I've got to click along and find out where we are. Right, okay. The trouble with MaSH after time is people go, what can you do with it? So we go, well, anything. And that's like getting a Lego set without any instructions. It feels amazing, but also you can get a bit lost. So let's start to break it down. A lot of the time when we're actually working with files, we're asked to do very, very simple stuff. If you're from our core world, by the way, if you're from the managed print services, scanning, document capture, document management type space, you'll want to do pretty basic stuff. You'll very often, here's an invoice file, for example, and I'm going to want to create some data. So let's create a delimited file. There you go. I want a CSV file for that. There you are. It just created one for me. Isn't that lovely? Because MaSH has the ability to take the fields down the right-hand side there and create a data file. So very, very simple things can be done with MaSH. But we've kind of said that, you know, MaSH isn't only about data within the things. And we've also talked about Foldr being able to work with not just documents. So at this point, we're not touching AI, of course, we're just running scripts. We're using the data we've already got. But I promise, by the way, this isn't a poster for the next Despicable Me movie. That is actually one of our developers. Love him to bits. That's Scott Mallion, and he wrote the scripts we're here. But if you take a look at this, I'm going to, there we go, where in the world? Let's see this happen. And you can see it's headed off and it's done a thing. And what it's actually done is it's taken a look at the EXIF data in the back of that image file, created me a Google pin. And if I go back, come on, you'll see that it's even created me a URL and stuck that in the field. So it's created me a link. So it created the Google pin, it's created a link to it, it's stored it within Foldr, and even if you saw the little pop-up alert there, it's even told me that it's done it. Because within Foldr, we're not only worried about the file names of normal documents or the content of an invoice. We can start to deal with things like EXIF data in images. We can start to deal with ID3 tags in video or sound files. We can do all kinds of things such as that. All metadata becomes available to us because of the structure of Foldr. So I can create text files, the kind of traditional stuff. I might be able to move things, rename things. Then I can start to delve into more complex metadata for me as well. I can do things like that. So those are real simple outcomes as to what we can do with Foldr. But I mentioned that Foldr has the ability, this might take a little bit longer. By the way, The box that I'm using, if you ever talk to any of the guys within Seletec about Foldr, you'll hear us refer to Virgil. Virgil is our test appliance, which is what we're using today, and Virgil gets an awful lot of abuse. So if things are a little bit slow and sluggish, it's because we're running a webinar and because Virgil gets some proper pasting. Anyway, we said that we could create images. So let's actually run this one. This might take a little while. Now, what we're actually looking for it to do, if you can see this here, we've set a series of triggers that we want MaSH to be able to look for, and we'd like it to identify where they are and how they occur in this document. And I'd like it to quarantine this file and give me a redacted copy, because I can create PDF files. Therefore, I can create new image files. I can start to move things around. It is taking a minute. I'm hoping I can keep talking until the blue lights go. But if I look here, a few seconds ago, it told me that the file was redacted, gave me the date timestamp. And if I go in there, you'll see that I've got redactions on my PDF files where they lay. Now, some people would actually like us to delete the original. We prefer not to. That's a matter of opinion. But you can see here that I can redact in specific locations, in blocks, in various other things. And of course, my original file could have been moved off into a safe location, and I could have even emailed people or text them to say something's happened. And if we take a look at that, I'm bashing between different appliances. Here we are. Sorry about this. But you'll notice that we've got a script here. I'm not actually going to run this one because needed to do something else. But this paper cut print archive script, if you're from the managed print world, you might know of a little print management product called Paper Cut. We've got a little something to do with it. We've talked about it once or twice. And there's a feature within that which archives print jobs. So what Foldr can do is it can watch that print archive job. It can look for content. It can redact those if needed to be in the archive itself. But more importantly, it could start to tell people that someone has printed something with a particular phrase in it out of a device. And it will tell them who, and it will tell them what device, and it will tell them when as well. So if you're familiar with the print archive product, or familiar with Paper Cut, and you're familiar with that, then you'll know that we could start to use the technology we just saw redacting files to also alert people to the fact that it very happened. There you go. It's a thing you can't do with Paper Cut, but you can do with MaSH. There we are. Let's take that a little bit further. There is nothing in here. It's like a wizard. My sleeves are rolled up. There's nothing to see. But if I run a script in another window that you can't see, which is a MaSHlet, you'll see that a few seconds ago, there we go, apparently I completely, I don't know what I did successfully, but I achieved it, which isn't bad before 10 o'clock in the morning, because what Foldr's doing here is it's taking a piece of metadata from a CSV file. I could even show you how that works, and it's merging that over the top of a certificate template and creating this, a bit like a variable data process. And Foldr has this capability because we can create images, we can merge data files, and that's how we've done that. And I love the fact that I was on the course with Julie Andrews. It was possibly a high point. She is awesome. Okay, right. We talked about a bit of AI, okay? And AI is, let's get on with it. In fact, no, do you know what? I'm going to do something very slightly different, because whilst I've got very excited and I've talked about EXIF data and ID3 tags and redactions and paper cut print archiving and all of that good stuff, we aren't in the most exciting world. And very often what people want to do is they want to extract information off of an invoice. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just duplicate this one here. I haven't tested this morning, so I'm really hoping it's going to work. And I'm hoping that I'm going to beat it. I'm going to talk for a while and see whether it goes off and does it. But what I've asked MaSH to do here is to take this invoice, round that up as vectorized data, because the Foldr core appliance can vectorize data all on its own. And there we go. I've asked it to send that to the AWS Textract engine. And if you're using the Foldr Fast product, there is an AI component in there that contains invoice processing volume. And you can see here in my server-side event driven by MaSH that it's gone off and from AI off of this document, identified all of these headers that I would like. It's told me that it's been processed by AWS, and it has told me all of the things I would like, including the line items. Let me just blow those out. There we are. And show that data, because there we go. We do have to do boring stuff as well. It's not all about Scott's holiday photos, and it's not all about me going on training courses with Julie Andrews. Occasionally you need to drive some business process. So there is actually a product. Talk to your account managers. If you want to know what our accounts payable bundle offering actually is, they can tell you, and it's a bit good and it's getting better. So there we are. Right. How much time have we got left, Diane? It's probably got about 5 minutes, haven't we, really? 5, 10 minutes, I think? Yeah, there we are.
Yeah, 10 minutes.
Okay. So the last little thing we did there, the invoice extraction thing, that's image processing, and yes, that used AI. But I do want to talk about AI a little minute because we are spending some time with AI, as you would imagine. Let me just refresh my appliance here. Okay. We're in a world where I've got Gemini everywhere. You know, I've got Siri on my phone that's determined it's cleverer than me. People have got Copilot on their desktop. I know in Seletec world, RMD, Big Ted is forever AIing stuff, and the results are mad. And it's fantastic, the things you can do with it, but it's also a bit of an unchained animal. If you've played with AI, you'll know that you'll get different responses. It's all about the query design. The things you get back will be in different formats. You know, it's very difficult to use this stuff in actual business process. So by building AI query tools and vectorizing tools into Foldr, what we're able to do is to standardize those queries to make sure that what you get back as an organization is actually usable and of course is delivered into a place and a format that you want it. Our goal here is to make AI manageable, auditable, and of course usable. That's kind of really important. So we'll give you an example here. All right. This is a script for a play. I won't show you too much of it. I'll tell you a bit of an interesting fact. If you didn't know this, plays and scripts and stuff actually have to be in this boring format. I just thought they were boring examples, but they are all designed to work in a particular way. And what we wanted to do initially with this was to find out, ask AI, how many sorry, okay, there's a question popped up, sorry, distracted me. We wanted to know how many characters are in it, and we wanted to know what those characters were like. Okay, because we were actually doing this for a talent agency. They manage actors and things like that, and they want to know which actors going to work with which scripts. But we realized halfway through this project that we needed to make sure the AI ran to the end. We needed a story arc. We needed to know how those characters interacted, because there might be things that those actors might not want to do, or they might, you know, have traits that there we go. So what we've done here, okay, is we've gone off and we've created a MaSH script. And I will mention, because this will take a little minute because it's going to submit the whole file. I will mention, by the way, I am manually running these MaSH scripts. But MaSHs can interact on a schedule, so on a particular time of the day, for example. They can happen whenever a file is indexed, like I did with my invoice. Here's a new invoice, please run this. They can run on events, like someone's changed the field value to approved, and it's going to drive on and create my CSV file or my data to my accounts payable application, stuff like that. In this case, I'm triggering them manually just so they're going off when I want them to go off. There we go. So if you come here, you can see that a few seconds ago, what I got was this particular text file, and it's giving me the characters, it's giving me the background, it's giving me the character traits. But you'll notice that unlike me throwing this Wild West into Copilot or throwing it at Gemini or even dropping it into ChatGPT, I am getting the same structured response for each of those pieces. And as a user, somebody who may not understand AI and query models and all those kind of things, I'm not writing the query. I'm asking it for exactly what the business needs. And I leave a backlog of stuff in here because you'll see that every time I ask, I get the same kind of structure. And if I go back across here, here's another one, you'll see exactly the same kind of thing. This is about you being able to use AI language models in a structured way with the right responses and, most importantly, formats coming back so you can drive the data. Suddenly, Copilot is kind of useful. Gemini is useful. And MaSH enables us to talk to any kind of endpoint, as well as having its own tools built in. So there's a couple of things that we're doing with it. Okay. Now, let's take that a step further. Now, this one will take a little minute. We thought, well, it'd be kind of nice, actually if our users would be able to make AI queries. Now, this is a medical record. If you're in our world, if you're in doc management and stuff, you may have worked with doctor surgeries, you may have heard of a piece of software called EMIS. The record you're looking at here is a sample file, I will have to say, unless Mickey Mouse really does live in Oxford, but it's a sample file. And this is the type of data that comes out of that. And we thought it might be, does this patient have a heart complaint? Because it might be kind of nice for people to be able to query these records. We're not going to get into whether medical records are a good idea or not, but it's just the idea of this without having that clinical knowledge. And typically I broke it. There we go. Let's do that again.
Davo, just so you know, there's 2 questions in the chat that we definitely need to answer at the end. Just then I'll put them.
We'll give us some time. There's not a problem. I'm thinking I might have broken this anyway.
Oh, well, there you go. I just wanted to make sure they know that they will be covered. Do not worry.
We will definitely answer questions unless I don't know the answer, in which case we will pretend we didn't see it. Okay. So hopefully you get the idea. I have broken that one. That's bad. It was working just before you came. But the idea of this is a similar kind of piece where I can have a structured system query and a user can start to interrogate it. And we took this a little bit further and actually decided to build a chatbot of it. Now, in this case, it's not medical records. This is us querying the knowledge base for Foldr. Does Foldr offer customization of its interface? I've not asked this question before. Let's find out. Okay, so this is actually MaSH looking at the content, vectorized data, submitting that to a large language model, and hopefully giving me an answer. You can see that I asked it earlier, and it was driving on there and giving me responses. Hopefully it will pop up in a little minute. It's running a little bit slowly, but I did tell you that Virgil is getting a little bit creaky. Okay, guys, I always like to throw this one back up, because in this doc management-y type of world that we're in, we're always dragged down the find a pain point, think about this, think about, you know, accounts payable, think about HR. Guys, the biggest challenges that businesses have are around misfiled or lost information. They're around data entry errors. They're around document duplication. The reason for that is we've talked about an endless folder, in webinars here. I can't find it, so I find it back in my Outlook. I save it again, and someone doesn't know which one's which. Around 30% of everything sat in people's SharePoint environments is a duplicate of something that was somewhere else. Okay, and people spend a load of time looking for things, and most, you know, a very large percentage of all offices is actually spent just storing records. Now, MaSH enables you to create automations that aren't just accounts payable invoicing or HR onboarding. Maybe you want to archive things. Maybe you want to make sure from a GDPR perspective that any records pertaining to an employee are moved out if the employee no longer works for you. Maybe you want to do all of these kind of things that aren't just, can I get my finance details off? Can I, you know, can I make sure that these things are compliant? And Foldr allows you to have the basis to that, and MaSH allows you to create these super powerful automations all the way around it. There we go. I think I'm going to stop talking, chaps, to be honest.
I was quite enjoying it. I think you should carry on for another 30 minutes, if I'm honest.
No, we're not going to do that. In fact, I'm actually going to go just straight back to there and say, if there are any questions, I'll answer them now. I think that gives us 2 minutes to answer questions. If you didn't understand a word I'm saying, but it sounds like it might have been interesting, get hold of your account managers and they can break it down into human. Okay, but make stuff happen. You can, and it can be any stuff, anywhere, on anything, because it's Foldr. There you are. MaSH.